Oops. Hello, everybody. Good to see you. Pop Culture Curator here, back with Gorilla's Random Thoughts. It's Wednesday, which means we're going to cover 2 more episodes of Gilligan's Island. We're on season 2, and today we're going to be covering episode 15 and 16. Our first episode is going to be guest starring Zsa Zsa Gabor of the Gabor sisters. The episode is entitled Erika Tiffany-Smith to the Rescue. And our first episode premiered December 30th, 1965. So I guess right during the New Year's vacation. And I wanted to say hello because it looks like Basil came in here pretty early. Hello, Basil Battle Dragon in the chat. Basil says cheers. Let me show that. There we go. There's Basil Battle Dragon. We'll probably have more people coming in as the show gets rolling. How are you doing today, Gorilla?
Oh, I'm doing pretty good. A little hungry, but doing good.
Oh, I hear you. I had 2 small frozen burritos last night from the microwave, and they were okay, but it gets a little old eating stuff in the microwave, and I haven't had anything today, so I'm hoping I can maybe eat something halfway decent tonight. And Basil says hi, Pop. And Basil says, hi, Gorilla.
Hey, Basil.
Good to see you, Basil. And I apologize, everybody. I was a few minutes late getting started today. I was on the phone a lot with my doctors today, so I was kind of getting late getting the show ready to go. And I tried to watch as much of the 2 episodes as I could. I didn't get a chance to see all the first one, but I did get to see all the second one. And I don't grade these episodes ahead of time, especially at the beginning. I won't give it like an A or an F, but I can tell you that I'm not a fan of the first episode because I don't know. I never found Zsa Zsa Gabor very appealing as an actress. I know a lot of people thought she was very beautiful, but I always preferred her sister Ava much better. Ava was way funnier. And all Zsa Zsa Gabor played, it seemed to me like whenever I saw her playing anything, it was a rich socialite or a gold digger after her husband's money, which is basically what she was in real life. So I knew that when the episode started, and I do remember watching it as a kid, the whole episode is just based around all the men fawning over her. And I just found that old, and I don't find it very funny, and I found it very repetitive.
Well, the fawning over, like, first episode there, I was going to wait until after the episode to mention it, but I got annoyed with the high class. Oh, and they're talking how class. They got that first episode. It was all right, but it was still annoying at some points.
That's all she does whenever Zsa Zsa Gabor comes on the screen. That's all they ever talk about. That's all she knows. She was born into a Hungarian family of money, and all she knows is money. So every time Zsa Zsa Gabor was on the screen, that's all she talked about. And I just found that very old. I mean, she was in a couple of good episodes of other TV shows like The Night Gallery. She was a good one of those about an old mirror in an antique shop. The glass was painted over. And when they scraped the paint off the mirror, they found out it was a time portal window into the past. And that was a pretty good episode, but even in there, she played a rich socialite. But I always preferred her sister, Ava Gabor, her younger sister who starred in Green Acres. Ava was, in my opinion, more beautiful and much more funny, much more talented. But I know that they all held their place in history. So I don't want to knock her, and they're both dead now, so I'm not gonna speak ill of the dead. But I will say that I preferred her sister Ava in Green Acres much, much better. Green Acres is a funny, very funny show. And I know since we started late, like I said, I apologize. We're like 15 minutes late tonight. I will try to get through these as quick as possible because I know, Gorilla, you got to work tomorrow, and I know you were up late last night for our horror sci-fi stream. So we'll see what we can do about getting through this as quick as we can. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and share our screen here.
Are you going to read from the book tonight?
Give me just a second. Let me turn on the light. I didn't get a chance to prepare. What I usually do is I pick out a part of the book before the stream. And I didn't get a chance to do that last week. And I didn't get a chance to do it today because I was on the phone making appointments with my doctors. So probably not going to read the book tonight, but I will make it up. I promise. So we get our opening scene with our heroes. You can tell my voice is weaker. I sounded much better last night because I just got out of the hospital and I slept in a good solid bed. And I was even saying during the stream, I said, I know if I sleep in this bed tonight, I'm going to feel like crap tomorrow. And sure enough, I slept in the bed and now my back is killing me and I can hardly breathe, just like before. So I apologize right now for the way I sound. And here we have Erika Tiffany-Smith, and I got a little bit of behind-the-scenes info I'm going to share about this too. Now, I noticed that we have Erika Tiffany, played by Zsa Zsa Gabor, and she has somebody piloting the boat with her.
The one time that nobody's in the lagoon.
Well, before, when the Japanese showed up, nobody was there. When the movie producers showed up, there was nobody there.
How convenient, huh? It seems like whenever you have a guest star, nobody's at the lagoon. But if there's no guest star,
they'd be hopping on that boat saying, "Let's go, let's go." I noticed later in the episode they call it a yacht. I don't know if I would consider that a yacht or not.
No, the yacht's still at sea. That's just an extra boat that they. Because they're 100 miles from Hawaii, so they're out in the middle of nowhere, not close, but in like a small group of islands. So they need a bigger boat to even get out there.
That's what I was going to say. I think that lagoon's not big enough to support a yacht. So here we are where she introduces herself to the castaways. And of course, immediately the skipper's enamored with her. And Gilligan doesn't really know who she is. He just realizes that she's real. And of course, what I do like is a little funny rivalry between her and Mrs. Howe, because it makes sense that the two would know each other and that they're competing socialites. So I thought that was kind of a funny running gag.
Yeah, can you still hear me? It's not echoing?
I hear you.
Okay. I took my headphones off here for a minute. It's kind of funny. Everybody knows her.
Well, the Howes know her, but let me see. The professor doesn't know her. The only ones that know her are the Howes and Ginger.
Skipper knew her.
I don't think so. She had to introduce herself to him. Oh, he did?
Yeah, I thought you knew her name. Because look at his face like you recognize the name. Like, oh, you're her?
Oh, okay. And of course, at this point, the Howells don't believe Gilligan when he's telling her until he mentions the name. I'm sorry. Nobody believes him. They're thinking he's hallucinating it once again, but when he says the name, the Howls immediately recognize it and know that he's speaking the truth. But see, the professor still thinks that Gilligan's imagining things. So the professor's not heard of her.
Yeah. Oh my God! I was laughing so hard at this that Mrs. Howell was talking about how much she hated her and she didn't want she didn't want to be rescued by her. Then all of a sudden she popped up and it's the plot. It's like the stereotypical. Oh, I don't want Miss you, dear. Oh,
Of course.
Mom.
Right, typical rich, two-faced people, right?
What? Oh no, it's not just a rich. I see that plenty of times where people will be talking shit about. Oh, sorry, they'll be talking crap about people. Then all of a sudden, as soon as the person walks up, it's like they're best friends.
I've
seen that with
yes.
a bunch of people.
Right, very ingenuous.
Nah.
I'm not fond of people like that at all. Here they are now, suddenly they're best of friends. But of course, they do make a couple of digs at each other. And like I said, everybody, of course, we have to skip through the slides and we're not able to play the audio. So I highly recommend you watch this so you can catch all the jokes because it is funny.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So polite digs like you see like two couple girls who haven't seen each other for like 10 years. Do
exactly.
Bazil says Mrs. Howell never really had much of a role, unfortunately.
What's that?
Basil said Mrs. Howell never really had much of a role, unfortunately.
Do you mean in the whole series or in this episode?
I don't know. I thought she had plenty to do in the whole series.
They always seemed like it evened it out for everybody. Got equals. Of course, he skipped for Skipper and Gilligan because they were the stars. But it seems like they evened it out pretty much.
Yeah.
When it went by, when you watch the beginning credits, watch the order that everybody's introduced, where it says Skipper and then Gilligan and the millionaire and his wife. Those it actually orders it. They are introduced in the order of the importance of when they signed their contract for the show and how much they were being paid. So whoever is introduced first was getting the biggest paycheck, which was Bob Denver as Gilligan. And then the next person who gets the second most screen time was Skipper, and then Jim Backus, and then Natalie Schaefer, and then the professor and Marianne got the least amount of screen time. So that's pretty much, if you watch the episodes, that's what you'll notice. And of course, she calls him Mr. Howell, the Wolf of Wall Street, which he's mentioned that before.
Yeah. And Basil said the series.
Interesting. That's possible. It may seem like that. But there are some episodes where she stands out, like the one where they did the stage play, and she was supposed to be the writer, and she got jealous, and she wanted to be the star, and she took Ginger's role away from her. She had a big appearance in that one. So sometimes it seems to change. So now where she's talking about perhaps purchasing the island to turn it into a resort, which we do see later on in the Rescue from Gilligan's Island movies.
Yeah. Well, at first I was questioning why would anybody build a resort there, but then I remember there's the Hawaiian Islands.
Right, and he, like Mr. Howell's telling her, it's just right off the shipping lanes.
Or the Bahamas, too.
But you'd think Mr. Howell would say, well, we can afford to buy it, or we already own it. You could buy it from us, something like that.
Yeah.
So they're implying that they're implying that she's richer than they are, I guess.
Yeah.
Hello, Joe. Good to see you. Glad you could join us.
Yeah, welcome.
Of course, Mr. Howell is flattered by her money. And Mrs. Howell's not very... That's why Mrs. Howell didn't want to stick around. And she said she felt a dizzy spell, and he said, you can go lay down. Because obviously she's not going to be able to stomach him fawning all over Miss Smith. I was just talking about the deal of buying the island. And of course, Mr. Howell immediately speaks up. This is what I was talking about, all the financial transactions on this little island. About the minor detail, but you picked the right island, he says. Easily accessible to the mainland, and we have to put up camouflage nets. Come on, darling, you know, this island is so remote. I have never even appeared on the Twilight Zone. And I like that reference to the Twilight Zone.
Wait, what year did the Twilight Zone come out?
I think it ran from like 59 to 63, 64 or something.
Oh,
like
okay,
that.
so it came out for 59. Okay.
Yeah, that's why it was in black and white. Color hit 1965.
I thought it was about the exact same time.
No, it was a little bit before. But they're both CBS, so it makes sense that they're going to mention Twilight Zone. Same network. And now she's talking about building a spa, of course.
Okay, we got a couple chats here.
Sounds good. Thank you. And go ahead. I'm going to turn the lights on.
Yeah, Job said, just finished work. Thanks for the stream. No problem. And Goiler Greg says, hello, guys. Welcome, OG. I'm going to call you the OG now, there, Euler. And Job says, wait, how long have they been in color? Since season 2 and 3. Season 1 was in black and white. OG says, Green Acres. I'm not sure what that's supposed to mean. You know what it means by Green Acres?
Yeah, that's the TV show that I told you that was also on CBS around the same time as this. And it starred Zsa Zsa Gabor's sister, Ava Gabor. That's when I was telling you that I like it. It's funny. And I was telling you that Ava is funnier than Zsa Zsa.
Oh. Okay. And this is Euler Greg's channel. Make sure to check him out. He has some fantastic spoiler-free reviews, which I still got to get to those movies. I still got to get to them there. And he goes, year 2, they started to be in color.
Yes.
Now, have we determined how long they've been on the island?
Right now, they're about on the island about a year and a half.
Okay.
Because we're about midway through the second season. So, yeah, about a year and a half they've been on the island.
Yeah. And you know that, yeah, you said that everybody was fawning and gagaing over the woman there. Well, let's think about it. They haven't seen, they've only seen the same 3 women for a year and a half, and finally, actually good looking woman steps on the island. Wouldn't she be gagaing over him a little bit?
Well, I guess, but I'm just saying is that's all Zsa Zsa Gabor plays. It's like a one-note actress. So I was just saying that it was, I don't know. I'm just kind of disappointed because it's just Zsa Zsa Gabor playing herself is what it is. And but I thought this was funny where she sees the professor Marianne and she says, "What is that?" Typical, like a rich person.
Yeah, but I guess I've gotten used to the one talent. We've gotten too used to the one talent actors that where all they are is used to playing, just doing one type of role.
Well, these days that's all Hollywood is. That's everything you see in Hollywood now. But back then it wasn't. And of course, Mr. Howell is so enamored with her, he keeps getting everyone's names mixed up. So he calls Marianne Saunders instead of Summers. And she corrects him, and this is Professor Huntley. No. And of course, he corrects him. Hinckley. What beautiful, deep-set eyes, she says. Oh, it's so wonderful to meet you, Miss Tiffany-Smith, says Marianne. I read all about you. And then Tiffany-Smith said those broad shoulders. And of course, Professor recognizes she's speaking to him and says, Miss Tiffany-Smith, you don't know what a pleasure this is. I certainly intend to find out, she says. So they then two leave. Mr. Howell, I don't even think she even saw me, says Marianne. Well, of course not. She has something in her eye. And of course, Gilligan comes running for Ginger, but he thinks that she's sunbathing and she's not.
Huh?
He tells her we're going to be rescued. He says it's Erika Tiffany-Smith. And he says, yeah, she owns a bunch of hotels and she's got a yacht. And of course, and Ginger immediately takes off to go ahead because she knows exactly who she is. And Skipper, haven't you heard the good news? We're going to be rescued by Mrs. Erika Tiffany-Smith. Well, gee whiz, I've read all about her, he said. And she owns a movie studio in Rome. And of course, Ginger starts listing off all the things she owns. And of course, the skipper is trying to figure out ways to impress her. He realizes he's a simple man and he doesn't know how to win her heart.
Yeah.
Ginger, I've got a problem. Go ahead.
I was going to say, welcome, Phantom Boomer.
Hello, Phantom Boomer. Glad you could join us. By the way, you guys, if any of you have seen this episode and if you have a good internet connection, feel free to join us. I do have a link in the panel. Or a link for the panel in the chat, I guess I should say. I get a beautiful woman to like an ordinary sailor like myself. And of course, Ginger tries to give advice. Oh, well, do all the right things. I mean, I've taken her for a walk. I got her some cold water. I got her a fan. And she said, perfect if you want a job as her butler. I mean, a woman like that, you have to treat gently, she says. You know, poetry and things. Sure, Napoleon used it on Josephine. And Romeo used it on Juliet. And she says, Stanley and Marcia. And he says, who are Stanley and Marcia? They live next door to me in Hollywood. Now she says she's going to get all dressed up. She owns a movie studio in Rome, a movie studio in London. Of course, she starts listing everything off again. Movie studio in Hollywood, and she takes off. Poetry, huh? And of course, Skipper not knowing anything about it. Oh, Mrs. Tiffany-Smith, you're such a beautiful woman. The boy stood on the burning deck. His feet were filled with blisters. Of course, he doesn't know how to be romantic. And meanwhile, the professor seems to be doing a better job. And she says, I thought all professors wore glasses. He says, oh, not at all. My eyes are emmetropic and completely refractable. Well, from here they look blue, she said. That in the short time I've known you, I find your personality. Professor, you're wonderful with words. But there is something to be said for action, too. It's not often that I meet such a sophisticated woman, he says.
Is it just me, or did he act a little bit differently than he normally does in this episode? With he uses a lot more big words than he normally does.
Well, he does. Well, yeah, but he's also trying to impress her. And a lot of times on these episodes, when he does use long words, they always tell him, Professor, we don't understand what you're saying. And he always has to break it down and simplify what he's saying. So I think he's using this as an opportunity, and he knows she's very well educated, world educated. She's been all over the world. So yeah, he's going to not be mincing words, I guess you could say. But he still acts like a little boy. And being a professor, she probably thinks he's got lots of money. Oh, no. Me is perfectly correct. So they're even debating on which English is correct. And he says, surely you've met many men before. She says, but never anyone like you. And she asks, do you have any plans when we go back to the United States? And he says, certainly, Erika. She tells him to call him Erika. You see, there is something I have in mind, something I should like to ask you, but I find it terribly difficult to be emotional. What's the difference? Of course, she has no idea what he's talking about. As long as we understand each other. Notice how quickly, and see, this reminds me of her character in real life, or the actress in real life, is notice how the conversation in her mind is quickly switching to marriage. Because she must have had 15 husbands throughout her life. I mean, she
only 15?
I don't remember. I lost count. She was marrying like princes. I mean, the last guy she was married to was this really, really old fossil prince. She would always marry into money and royalty. And that's why she always walked around with all these jewels and everything showing it off.
Hey, well, she has the looks to be able to marry the rich.
Well, yes, she had the looks, and as far as acting, she did not need the money. I mean, she was richer than all these people. I think the only reason why she acted was because kind of like a hobby, because she enjoyed it, but she definitely did not need it. She had plenty of money.
Well, you gotta do something with you. It's just boring sitting at home sometimes. So it'd be a way to get out of the house there.
Right, but it's like, she'd walk into a studio and they'd say, "Oh, Zsa Gabor, you're hired. What kind of role do you want to play?" "Well, myself, darling. I'll play myself." I mean, you don't see her. They don't have her dressed down like as a housekeeper or anything like that. She never played anything but herself. She always, just like you see her now, is how she always looked. She never changed her appearance. She never acted like somebody different. She always acted like Zsa Gabor. I mean, I guess that's a good thing. And then we have Gilligan looking for the professor, and the professor is daydreaming, of course, about her. He said, "I'm afraid I've been indulging in a bit of reverie." And he said, "You were just sitting there thinking." Well, that's what he meant. So now is where he explains what he wants to do is he's hoping that Mrs. Smith will be his assistant. He wants to continue experiments in the laboratory with worms, an angleworm. And he's hoping that she'll help him do that. And as we all know, she probably won't. He says he's afraid to ask her. And Gilligan says, "Well, just go ask her."
Here, let's catch up on chats because we had another person come in.
Thank you.
Here, Phantom Boomer says, "Howdy." OG says, "Hey, Phantom."
Hello, guys.
Phantom says, "Greg." OG says, "Cheers." And welcome, Herc. Welcome. He
Hello,
says,
Herc.
"Hey, Pedal." Hello, other Greg and Phantom Boomer. I am back online. Cool.
Glad to hear that.
Like, Herc. And OG says, "Cool, Herc." Don't worry, Herc. I'll try not to make you bang your head on the bottom of the engine there with some kind of joke.
Yeah, we don't want to see you get hurt. I hope you get your car fixed soon.
Yeah. Oh, it seems like a cool project that's going to take a bit.
Oh, it's a project car? Nice.
Oh, yeah. He searched long and hard for find a deal like that.
What is it? Did I miss it? They mentioned it in previous streams.
Oh, yeah, because when we were talking about Plutanus, he was working on the oil pan on that, and he banged his head on the oil pan laughing.
No, I remember that, but I'm saying, what kind of car is it that he's working on?
It's an old 80s, was it like an old 80s, 70s, or 80s muscle car. He used to have one when he bought one when he was 16, and then he sold it, and he regretted it. So he went and bought another one there. Herc, can you put that channel up there for you? He has 2 videos on it, on the channel so far.
Yeah, feel free, Ola Greg, to post a link.
No, that'd be Herc doing. Oh, yeah, here we go. Yep, 1973 Mach 1 Mustang, yep.
Oh, nice. That's right. I remember, yes. Very cool. Yeah, you get that fixed up, that'll be worth some money.
And then it says, OG says, "Don't forget to hit the thumbs up button." All right, we're all caught up.
Thank you for that, everybody. Yeah, if you enjoy it, hit the like button and consider subscribing to my channel and clicking the notification bell. And of course, Rebecca says, "I have a question," and she immediately says, and see, that's also like a dig-in joke for her because it was well known around Hollywood that she got married constantly. So that's also like a self-deprecating joke, I have to admit. When the professor says, "I have a question," she says, "The answer is yes." Of course, she's automatically assuming it's marriage.
Yeah.
And you're one of those. Go ahead.
Yeah. I just thought that was a joke of the show. I didn't know like how many times she was actually married. So that kind of went. Guess that kind of went over my head a little bit. That's some dated humor there, I guess.
Yeah, well, you didn't until I started describing who she was. You didn't really know who she was. So now it's
Yeah.
making a little more sense to you. So I'm glad to fill in the blanks. Congratulations, my boy. You've won the Nobel Prize, or shall I say Nobel Prize, that your chaps win. I have. Of course, Professor's confused. He doesn't understand what's going on. However, hold out for dear old Hobbit, says Mr. Howell. And she says, and if you want to, you can have a match set. Don't worry, darling. I'll unbewilder you. And of course, he's still confused. And of course, Mr. Howell is congratulating her on the marriage.
Huh.
And of course, the professor is so enamored with her, he's struggling to get his shoe on. And Mary Ann comes in. First, he calls her Hi Ginger. And he says, she says, I'm Mary Ann. And he says, I don't know what I'm doing or what I'm saying. And she says, for one thing, you put your right shoe on your left foot. So his mind is wandering so badly, he's got his shoe on the wrong foot. And he's basically saying that he cares for her, but he's not used to the high society.
Yeah. See, that's the one thing I never understood on it. These people, they talked for like 2 minutes, and all of a sudden they're madly in love and all that.
Well, because it's the 30-minute episode.
Yeah.
And here they are talking on the island, and she still thinks they're going to get married. I'll never forget my first week here. Do you know that I discovered 5 different mutations of ragweed? And she said, as long as we discovered each other, she's not really listening to him, of course. Oh, you have such strong hands. This is why I spend 3 hours a day just cataloging the flora and the fauna. And she said, the moonlight nights must be beautiful here. Oh, that's true, he says. You can count the Trianguli Australis and a moonlight swim under the desert sky.
Yeah. What's the triangle moon?
Constellation system.
Oh, constellations. Okay.
Right, and she doesn't really know what he's talking about. With a warm wind blowing through the palm trees. She's just talking about midnight swim with warm wind. And he says, Erika, how wonderful. Who showed an interest in palm trees. Look at that tree over there, he says. It's a Pomaceus ignaceus cunicus. Very rare species with a very interesting fruit. And I wonder if Adam and Eve started this way, she says. So now she's starting to realize that he's talking on a different level than her. And look, have you ever seen a more perfect example? Isn't that exciting? She says, I suppose it's very exciting. Of course, she thinks it's just a turtle. That's what she said to another turtle. And of course, Ginger's getting all dolled up because she wants to impress her because she knows she owns movie studios. And now is he trying to get he's trying to get advice from Ginger?
Yeah.
And he mentions that he doesn't realize that they're engaged to be married, but he says the more he talks to her, the further away they seem to be drifting. Because obviously, Mrs. Smith does not want to talk about plants and bugs and turtles and stuff. Did you ever go to a drive-in movie? Once, but the curvature of the screen made it impossible to enjoy the picture. And that's funny because drive-ins were flat. The only time a curved screen is when they came out with CinemaScope and Cinerama, and that was in the 60s.
Well, this is the 60s.
Right, so he must have went to a drive-in right before they got marooned on this island.
Yeah, I was gonna say the screens at the drive-in, they're flat.
They are. The only time they had a curved screen is when they introduced the movie It's a Mad, 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 Mad World, and that came out in 1963. And that had a curved screen because it used 3 projectors instead of just one. Which, interestingly enough, Jim Backus was also in that. Of course, Ginger is telling him, didn't you have a hometown with a girl that was sitting on the porch? And he said, I tried to start intelligent conversations. And all she wanted to do was hugging and kissing, kissing and hugging. She said, Professor, don't knock it till you tried it. I don't even know the first thing about it, he says. Professor, school is now open. You come to the right teacher. Oh, yeah, I'd be all over that, of course. Well, perhaps that would be advisable. Now put your arms around me. So Ginger's trying to show him how to be affectionate, like a man of his age doesn't know yet. You can hold me a little tighter. I won't break, she says. Well, I don't want to crush your dress. Try. On both of them at once, that's the only way to fly. So she tells him to kiss her on the. Let's just sit there acting like he has no experience with women. And we've seen in previous episodes where him and Ginger were making out. How was that? I wouldn't even satisfy your mother, she said. Professor, I don't know if you're ready for this, but it's for your own good. Now she really shows him what it's like. That, Professor, is what Mrs. Tiffany-Smith wants.
Yeah.
And of course, interesting, Ginger. But how am I going to get her to get me into this position?
He's like impossible.
Well, you got to remember this. This is Family Hour when they wrote this, so they're trying not to get too sexual. Now, of course, back to the house, which means back to talking about buying the island. With a little diligent work, with a few measly $1 million, you could turn this island into a playground par excellence, with golf, tennis, polo, etc., etc., etc. That's the trouble, darling, she says. There hasn't been an etceteras at all. You can say that again. Does that mean you're not going to buy the island? Why? And she said, well, on one condition. And he said, why is there always one condition? Well, darling, he's such a nice man. Can you explain to him that I'm not the right woman for him? And Mr. Howe says, I'll bend every effort, and I come from a long line of effort benders. And she says, you know when I told him that I'm 36, 22, 36? He said, my, what a wonderful IQ. That man must be holding from the inside, really, says Mr. Howell. All right, darling, I'll be back for you people in 2 hours. See, and this is what Basil was bringing up earlier when you think about it. Mrs. Howell does have a very small role in this particular episode. Because I don't think she would be able to handle being around Mr. Howell as he's talking to Tiffany this way. The last time we saw her is when she said she was going to go lay down in the hut. And she says, I'll see you in 2 hours. And he says, 2 hours, cheers, my dear. Now to explain to the professor. Professor, getting caught up with your road work? Oh, Mr. Howell, no. He says, well, Erika has returned to her yacht. In about 2 hours. So apparently in 2 hours she's supposed to return. So, well, there's something that I must tell you first. Erika feels the two of you are mismatched. That a union would be utter folly. And Professor says, I was just about to tell her that, although I admired her. The differences in our individual psychologies, our intellectual patterns, made our future happiness an impossibility. So he did realize this, so he's not exactly broken-hearted. Well, I'm glad I told you first, said Mr. Howe. You'd be celebrating your 5th wedding anniversary. And they hear noises and there's a lot of wind blowing, and there's a storm. And he says, "Oh, never mind the storm, Gilligan. We've got to get packed. I'll tell you what to do. You go down to the lagoon and see if Mrs. Tiffany-Smith needs any help." And Gilligan gets caught up in a storm. And he says, "Gilligan, I told you to go to the lagoon. You go to the lagoon. I'm not going down to the no lagoon." Gilligan's worried because of the storm.
Yeah. Well,
he gets there. Go ahead.
Hey, when they get back to the mainland, some people have some job in construction there. That storm was enough to knock some palm trees over there, but yet the huts didn't take any damage there. They got some jobs in construction there.
Oh yeah, they did a good job on those huts. We fear they lasted for 15 years too on the island.
Well, they're surviving a storm like this.
There's a bit of trivia. Tina Louise and guest star Zsa Zsa Gabor have no scenes together in this episode.
I take it they didn't want to compete?
I don't know. I just thought it happened to work that way. Now, I want to cover the guy on the boat who they first showed take Miss Tiffany to the island. Ed Fury, the famous bodybuilder who once played Hercules and who also appeared in the movie version of South Pacific, is the hunky man who helps Erika Tiffany-Smith off to the boat. And when they mentioned the Twilight Zone episode, where she says, "Come on, darling, you know this island is so remote, it was never even mentioned on the Twilight Zone," she's alluding to Rod Serling's popular anthology series, which we all know about. And they ran from, I was right, 59 to 64. Okay.
Okay.
How are we doing on chat?
I was just about to ask on that.
Thank you.
OG put in Herc's 130's channel there, and Herc said, "It is my car from 1980. The VIN numbers matched to my car I had when I was 16. I found it down in Houston and bought it back after 30. Oh, I didn't realize it was the exact same car. I thought you found a similar one for a good deal. Oh my, that is damn lucky there. Did you tell the story to the guy you bought it from, or did you just go in and check it out and try to buy it?"
I wouldn't tell him. He probably hiked the price if you told him how excited you were.
Nope. They are. It already, when he found it there, he already had it probably in writing or already had it down, the price down. But anyhow,
very cool. Congratulations, Herc.
And Euler said OG or Herc's channel, and then Herc says, "Oh, great! My car channel is my Mach 1 for life." Euler Greg says, "That's awesome, Herc. In Houston? Woohoo!" That makes Euler Greg really happy. Hey, maybe he bought it from Euler. I will laugh that happened. I will laugh my ass off, and I would go buy a lottery ticket. And I'm not talking one of the cheap $5 ones. Oh, gee, that's not as efficient as artificial intelligence, or I'm not as efficient. And Euler says, "How big does a giant spider grow in a year and a half?"
Yeah, that's good.
Take the rate of a regular spider and times it by 10.
And it probably depends on the species, I imagine.
Then my Mach 1 for life says, "Hey, Euler Greg, it's me, Herc 130, using my other channel name." So then Euler Greg puts the Mach 1 for life one in there. Then Herc says, "How about Bella Jimmer? Still a Marianne man myself. Marianne all the way, Marianne." And Euler says, "Herc's car channel." Then Herc says, "Thanks, or Greg." Euler Greg says, "Ginger's my current favorite." Nah, you gotta go Ginger. And Euler Greg says, "No problem, Herc." And Euler says, "Ginger really puts an effort and is an example of a superior woman of that era."
Definitely, yes.
Yeah. And Euler Greg says, "Skipper's huts, we build them on your land." All right.
So here's where we cut back to the lagoon, and it looks like Oops. Don't need it full size like that. It looks like she's gone. No boat. She gave us her word, and her word was as good as mine.
Yeah, maybe a little bit better.
Since the storm ended.
Yeah. Well, he goes, her word's as good as mine. Well, maybe a little bit better than mine.
Right.
I laughed so hard. And welcome, PvP.
Hello, PvP. Good to see you there. And here's where they say it's been 3 days since the storm ended, and there's been no sign from her. And Gilligan's up in the tree, and he says, all I see are 2 flying fish and a seagull. Look, I'm bleary-eyed. I've been up here for 9 hours. All right, you can come down now. What are you doing, Skipper? He said, every time Gilligan comes out of a tree, well, he falls. I was just thinking that too. And Skipper says, this time I'm going to be safe. And of course, Gilligan still falls and lands on the Skipper.
Oh, yeah, that's saying there. But PvP said, what? Lisa Douglas? Does Oliver Douglas know about this?
Yes, he's referring to Green Acres, that show I was telling you about. Gorilla.
Yeah. And Herc says, my sincerest apologies for hijacking your chat, Pop Culture. This is a channel about our love for the steer series Gilligan's Island for Life.
Oh, no, you did not hijack the chat at all. No, you're doing fine. That's what we're here for, is to talk about this. I'm glad you're here.
Yeah. And Gola Greg says, we promote our chat channels here, Kirk. No problem.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, we have no problem. At least I have no problem promoting other people's channels and that. I know some people think it's rude and all that, but screw that. We grow together.
If people come, my belief is if they come to spend their time here on my channel, I return the favor by promoting their channel. I don't spend a lot of time promoting channels, the people that do not come on my channel, because there's no point in that. You know, there's a lot of channels, if you guys check out my page, there's a lot of channels that I subscribe to, like Rick 9G. He does a lot of classic television, lots. But I don't promote people who don't come here, because that's pointless and in my opinion, disrespectful for the audience who are watching what we're watching now, because all I'm doing is mentioning a bunch of names and they don't know who they are. And that's just going to bore people and confuse them. But I will promote people who do come to the channel and who are on the panel or on the chat. Turtle of all things, the silly things to put in a sea chest. Of course, Gilligan, I told you, no more souvenirs in the sea chest. He kicks them out. Anything else in, I'll personally throw it out. And he says, throw it at Gilligan. Nobody's talking about the professor. And of course, he's trying to throw the professor out, and Skipper is stopping him. And of course, now we always got to have the recap at the end on the radio of what happened to Mrs. Smith, Erika Tiffany. Skipper, you better unpack. Listen. Erika, all America is waiting breathlessly. But they're asking her what happened. And she says, it was marvelous, darling. Simply marvelous. On the cutest little island. But the Navy reports that they can't decode your logbook. Here's the part I wanted to mention. It's written in plain English, they say. Translated from Hungarian, of course. I'll read it to you. We took a left turn by a big, beautiful pink tropical flower and then pulled over and parked. I'm afraid that's hardly Navy talk. After the storm, we backed up and made a U-turn. The Navy must know the exact latitude and longitude in order to find those people. Darling, there's nothing to worry about, she says. Every day they will send me a sailor to talk to. Someday we will find them. So here's what I want to explain. Is because this is something that fans, the producer of the show was Sherwood Schwartz. And fans asked him when they met him in person, I wanted to address this. I don't know if this is in the book or not. But what the fans said was when she was on the radio, she should have known the latitude and longitude of the island because of that guy on the boat, the one that took her from the yacht to the lagoon, would know all that. He would know the latitude and the longitude of where the island was located. Why wasn't he on the radio with her while she was being interviewed rather than go by her directions? So fans asked Sherwood Schwartz that. And he said straight up, he said the guy died of a heart attack. He said they're not going to show that on the show, but off screen, the man died of a heart attack during that 3-day storm and did not make it back to land.
See, I would have done this a little bit differently. There, we know they went into a storm, I would have had them all like bonk their heads like on something, and they're suffering from amnesia, so that they don't remember anything and they forgot to write everything, and that their logbooks were lost in the storm.
Yeah, but the whole boat gets amnesia.
Yeah.
Interesting.
But we don't know how many.
Far-fetched.
Well, we don't know how many. We don't know how many people were on her yacht. We only know the two.
But you're assuming it's fairly large, and plus, I doubt she has the skill to get that yacht back to Hawaii. So we're assuming that if that guy died during the 3-day storm, there must have been other people on that yacht as well. Or maybe they made it back to Hawaii before the end of the storm, and he passed away before the interview on the radio.
Yeah. See, I was just thinking that maybe that there's just like 2 or 3 people on the boat. You got her, the navigator, then like a butler or something.
Yeah, she had at least one servant, right?
Yeah, I don't think it was a very large yacht. It'd be something like maybe just something about the size of the minnow, but just fancier.
Well, maybe that's what I'm saying. But they still had to make their way back to land. So I'm guessing that if that guy was the captain of that ship, he had to get them back to land because she's on the radio now doing the interview. So that's what I'm guessing is maybe he died on the trip on the way back to Hawaii or after they arrived. But remember, what I'm saying is according to Sherwood Schwartz, which makes it canon.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I was just going what I would have done instead.
That's fine.
Then that'd make a lot more sense and a lot more believable for the story and still get the same joke off. We're screwed. We're not getting off this island again.
Well, yeah, and I guess, and they didn't want to get too grim, but they could have said on that radio during that interview, they could have said, it's too bad you don't have the captain of your yacht here. He could tell us where it was. But due to his untimely death, he's not able to give us that information. See, but they don't want to go into that dark territory on the show because it's a sitcom. And of course, they want to wrap it up on a high note. So here's where they realize they're going to be there a long time. Well, in that case, and Gilligan starts unpacking the chest.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, you should start throwing everything in. Well, what are you doing? All right. Well, we're getting to our next episode there. I'll catch up on chat.
Thank you.
PvP said, I thought my car was old. And Pickle says, more Gilligan, less promoting. Oiler says, LOL. And Pickle says, LOL. Herc says, okay, I put my wrenches away. Back to Ginger kissing.
I would love to buy my first car again and rebuild it. That would be so nice.
I know where my first car is. It's sitting in a grove there collecting rust. Oh, Greg says another classic Gorilla multi-amnesia script.
There we go. Right, everybody has amnesia.
Yeah, and OG says I never heard the heart attack story.
Nope, but that is something Sherwood Schwartz said because somebody called him out on it. They said, "Well, why wasn't the pilot or the captain of her boat there for the interview to give the directions to where the island was?" And that's what Sherwood Schwartz said.
Yeah,
so that was the producer himself.
Yeah, and OG said he saw the giant spider and it causes the heart attack.
And of course, music composed and conducted by Gerald Fried, who tragically died just a few months ago. I did a tribute to him on my channel. And he's known for a lot of famous music back in the day, and especially, as we all know, the battle scene from Amok Time on Star Trek. He said he made the most money from this show here. Glad to see you. All right, here, let me get ready for the next one. Hope you guys are enjoying yourself out there in the chat. Like I said, there's a link in the panel if any of you guys like to join us, if you've seen these episodes or you want to share with us, you're welcome to. What did I do? There it is. I almost lost my window there for a moment. I apologize, guys. Okay, so now we're going to be moving on to season 2, episode 16. And let me get the resize and get it shaped just right. Get my subtitles all set. There we go. And we got our introduction with our heroes. Unfortunately, that dastardly storm. Right, so this is what I was mentioning during the last episode, is the order that they are introduced is their pay for the show. So that's why the bigger their roles are, depends on how they were cast. And Marianne and the professor get the least amount of lines because that's just where they were on the casting. And of course, this is also directed by Jack Arnold, who directed the last episode. Yeah. And we open with Gilligan fishing. And another episode where they pull in something from the ocean. And this time it's a trunk once again.
Yeah.
So, of course, they're all excited. Look, Gilligan, a crate of food. It's funny how they mention this after having coconut for so long. Anything would be a treat. But we've seen that they eat pretty well. They got a lot of fruits, vegetables. They got a lot of seafood, fish, shrimp, lobsters. So they eat pretty well. The only thing they don't get, I guess, if anything, would be like beef or pork.
I mean, there's not a wild boar somewhere on the island?
I guess not.
Because I always laugh at that. There you go, these islands, and there's always a wild boar on an island.
That would make a very tasty ham, I admit that.
It would or wouldn't?
Would.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would cook that in a pit.
Yeah, I want to go wild boar hunting down there in Texas one of these times.
Geez, I had a job that sent me to Arkansas, and they were all over. They were overran by them. They were such a nuisance. They were allowed to shoot them with automatic weapons.
Are you sure they weren't semi-automatic? Because automatic weapons, I thought, were banned under the NFT, or the National Firearms Act.
They could have been semi-automatic, but it's terrible the way they hunt them. You know, I've hunted before, and I'm a hunter. But when I heard how they kill boar, it's shameful, and I don't like it at all.
Yeah, but they overbreed and they destroy everything.
They do, but okay, this is not for the squeamish, everybody. So I hope I don't offend you, but I explain this. But this is how they hunt wild boar. What they do is they shoot the mother to maim her, not to kill her. They shoot her to maim her where she can't run. And she's screaming and squealing in pain. And when she does that, the babies run up to her. And they start picking off the babies one by one. And when they shoot the babies will run, scatter. You know, they'll shoot a baby or two. The rest of them will run and scatter. And when the mother will continue crying and crying. And every time the mother does that, some more of the piglets will come back up to the mother, and they'll keep shooting them off until they're all dead. I'll put it that way. That's how they hunt wild boar, and I think it's despicable. But I suppose it's nature, and everybody does it or whatever. But I don't like the tactic at all. It's something that I wholly reject, and I can never do that. I find it very cruel. So here's where the skipper says that they find a newspaper.
Hey, I want to know who made that crate there that the newspapers are all dry in it.
I know we talked about in some of the other episodes. They're always waterproof, aren't they? Well, if it says food, that would make sense. They would make it at least water resistant, waterproof if it's supposed to be food. But now they find out instead of food that is a bunch of garbage, it looks like, and old newspapers.
Well, there's coconuts in there. The coconuts were wrapped in the newspaper.
That's true.
That's the whole joke of it. More coconuts, because they're so excited to have something other than coconuts.
And here's where the skipper reads that apparently there was a murder the night before. The minnow left Hawaii. All the suspects have been cleared, and it's believed that one of the 7 persons aboard the missing minnow. So now they figure that somebody is a murderer. And of course, they're immediately taught all they're obsessed with. So we have Gilligan and Skipper. I knew who the murderer is. I knew. And he goes, you know who did it? The butler. And then Skipper says, we don't have a butler. And Gilligan says, I used to watch everything on TV, and it was always the butler. Now, I want to be clear on this. Gilligan explains that he sees all this on the old show Perry Mason. But Perry Mason did not make it the trope of the butler did it. I know we've all heard of the butler did it, but that was actually the Agatha Christie books that did that.
Okay.
There was a lot of old murder mystery. What's that?
I did not know that.
Yeah, there were a lot. Nero Wolfe. There was a lot of old detective books. What do you call it? Sherlock Holmes. And those were the ones that established, the end joke. A lot of times where the butler did it. Perry Mason was a lawyer show, and every week he had a murderer on there, and he had to figure out who the murderer was. And it was rarely if ever the butler. But they're kind of mixing the two together. Look at this here. And then he ran back in and whispered to Mr. Mason. Mr. Mason stood up and pointed his finger as the butler had said, and this is your murderer. Yeah, see, that's not how Perry Mason did it. That's how Nero Wolfe would do it. And some other detectives. So he's kind of like conglomerating a whole bunch of detectives into one. But he keeps trying to tell Gilligan there is no butler.
All right, let's catch up on. Oh, sorry.
I was just going to say, and they don't even trust each other. Go ahead.
Yeah, Greg says battle music. And Herc says, it still freaks me out that the Laguna's in the middle of the city.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, and PvP says, had an oil change last Saturday, and they checked everything. My 30-year-old car is still basically solid with no major issues. They did say I should get new tires in a few months, though.
Oh, yeah, very cool. Always get your tires rotated.
Yeah, and Herc says, you just have to file differently for an automatic weapon, but you are really researched by the FBI. Yeah, it cost thousands of dollars just to get that.
Arkansas is very fast and loose with guns. People are driving around with them on the dashboard of their car.
Yeah, but automatic weapons are considered an NFT item, and it costs tens of thousands of dollars to get the FBI off their ass to run your background, a deep background check to make sure that you're not going to go on some kind of spree.
Well, I will say that in some states it's easier to obtain guns than others.
Yeah, but that's mostly like your AR-15 and shotguns and regular old pistols. Yeah, and PvP says, my car still runs like a beast. I'll probably drive it until it gets too expensive to repair stuff. Yeah. The PvP says, wild boar, yum. Hey, there was a gorilla on the island in one episode. Is gorilla get eaten? Oh, hell no. Hell no.
No cannibals here.
This is Gilligan's Island, and I'm not going to drop the bomb like I did the last Gilligan's Island there, because I know this is Gilligan's Island. But I got 2 words for you, PvP. I got 2 words, but I won't say it.
Heck no.
And my other one starts with a little bit different letter.
So now they're talking about, they're basically thinking that everybody's suspicious. And now they're thinking maybe it's the professor. We're going to go over and talk to the professor together, they say. That way I'll prove to you that he's not a killer, says the skipper. And of course, they walk into the professor's hut just as they see that he built a guillotine. Oh, gentlemen, you're just in time. We are. And of course, they see that he slices a coconut. We got to get out of here. Oh, wait, Gilligan. And of course, he goes, I want to show you how this operates. Me? Yeah, is this what I think it is? A guillotine? Says the skipper. And he says, yes. I'm going to eliminate a lot of manpower, he says.
Yeah.
And he puts a coconut in there to give them an example. And it never misses, he says. We'll see you later, Professor. And of course, they immediately head out. I think my little buddy here has developed some kind of a sore throat.
Yeah.
Well, I can take care of that, says the professor.
And also, why the eyed like the serial killer looking at his eyes when he said that. But I want to know where. I want to know where you got the metal to build that blade out of.
Yeah, I know, because in the last episode they melted down all the metal for the anchor, I guess, huh? But I guess we're assuming it came from the boat. Maybe it came from the minnow. Maybe the rudder of the minnow.
I thought the rudders were wooden.
Possible.
Yeah, I don't know where he got that big of blade from.
And of course, he wants to demonstrate, but they leave before he can. And Gilligan's about ready to pass out. Are you all right, little buddy? I think so, Skipper. And now he says, what about Marianne and Ginger? What about them? What? What's up, Gorilla?
I thought he actually passed out there.
Maybe he did, but I missed it in between the slides. I apologize for that.
Yeah.
That's why I encourage everybody to watch this episode, because since we have to go through slides like this, we do miss some of the stuff. Of course, Gilligan's already thinking about Ginger and Marianne. Who else on the island owns a loaded guillotine? But they're still suspicioning the professor. So here's where they're going to go and talk to the girls. Oh, good. We got here in time. In time for what? Something important to tell you.
Yeah. And welcome, Daniel, to Hot Topics.
Hello, Daniel. Welcome. I'm glad you could join us. Good to see you. So the girls are cooking. And Skipper says, I mean, it's very possible, that we... What are you girls cooking? Oh, poison. Yeah, we found some wild oleander on the island. Oleanders? And I know what those are. Those are poisonous flowers. They used to line up the freeways here, or there when I was living in California. For many decades, they had oleanders as dividers between the freeway. Because when I was a little kid, I went and picked a bunch. And I remember I took it to my mom and I said, I'm going to take these to Grandma and surprise her. She said, oh, no, honey, those are deadly. That's not going to look good if you give Grandma a bunch of oleanders.
Yeah.
But the girls explained that they made them because apparently they have mice in their hut. There it is, to get rid of the mice around the huts. That's what I wonder. Would there be mice on an island? I don't know.
Apparently, one of the people who visited the island brought some mice with them.
That's possible because mice are commonly known to be on boats. They could have been in that crate that they opened. And she said, and if it works, we're going to get rid of some other horrible creatures. And they're like, huh? And of course. And then that's what it is you wanted to tell us. And that's why they're leaving. Oh, never mind, Ginger. We'll see you later, girls. Gilligan, what are you doing? Of course, Gilligan's building a barricade because he's paranoid. And he's still talking about the professor and his guillotine and the girls making the poison. And of course, as every time Gilligan puts something up against the door, the skipper puts it back down again.
Until Gilligan made a very valid point. Well, how well do you know these people? We never met them before the trip.
Exactly. He says, that's right, we don't know anything about the professor. He might not even be a professor. They say they're girls, but how do we know? And he says, you better see your eye doctor. Yes, they are real women.
Oh, train's coming through town.
Yep. Steam whistle. So now they're reading more about what's going on, and unfortunately, Skipper accidentally burns it with the candle.
Oh, I missed this part.
Yeah, they actually burned part of it. He's reading that report that they pulled out of the crate. Yes, Gilligan, he was killed with a spear gun. Kind of gun you use underwater. That's it. We need to find who can shoot a spear gun. To fire a spear gun, all you need is a finger on the trigger, says Skipper. Oh, well, the professor and the girls are still good suspects. They got fingers. Gilligan, please, I'm trying to think. So we have 3 suspects. The only thing they'd be guilty of is having, he says, what about the Howells? And he says the only thing they'd be guilty of is having money. Oh, and that's right. And the other thing is, how do we know the Howells are that rich? They had a whole trunk full of money, says Gilligan. When you're that rich, you don't have to steal. So they're thinking maybe they stole the money. Gilligan, I don't think all that fancy rich talk is just up front. So now they're suspicioning the Howells, so they're going to sneak into their hut. Let's see if there's any evidence. Let's go. Letters, diary, notes, something. And this is where they find out that Mr. Howell has a little silver pistol. And he says, Mr. Howell never told us he had one of these. I think I found something. It feels like a newspaper, says Gilligan. Yeah. And he pulls out the paper. Good going. You know how criminals are. They like to see their names in the paper. And then this is, where'd you find this? And he says, Mr. Howell's pants pockets. Survivors of the minnow. And he says, for goodness sakes, you didn't find this in Howell's pocket. You found it in my pocket. And now we have Mr. Howell starting to, he heard this and overheard it, and it's starting to wake him up.
Yeah. Now, why didn't they just wait till the Howells went out during the day and snuck in there?
I think they were too anxious. They didn't want to wait, and they were too impatient. The teddy bear fell off. I go get it. Because they know he won't sleep long without his teddy bear. So Gilligan gives him back his teddy. And they bump into each other. And he says, who's that? Nobody, nobody, nobody. Gilligan, be quiet. I didn't say anything. Oh, I was just talking to Gilligan. So now the Howells are awake and they're wondering what they're doing in their hut. Mr. Howell turns on the light. I didn't hear anybody knock. Did you, Thurston? What are you two doing in here? Well, Mr. and Mrs. Howell, it's just the idea. Well, we thought we saw a wild animal running here. A lion, a bear, they both say at the same time. And he says, well, which one was it? And then they reverse and they both say the opposite. And now they act like they're going outside to go look for it. Inadequate police protection, says Mrs. Howell. And of course, Gilligan's still going over who could it be, Marianne, Ginger, Mr. Howell, the professor. And of course, at the same time, Skipper's thinking 5 people, and one of them is a killer. Which one? Now, this is what they're saying in their head. They're not saying this out loud, everybody. This is what each of them are thinking. And this is Skipper thinking, what do I really know about Gilligan?
Yeah. Should we catch up on chats real quick?
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Alrighty. Herc says, I think our girl eats well. Oh, yeah.
Sounds like it.
And Daniel says, hi, Gorilla Pop and Pop Culture Curator.
Rocky! Sorry, guys.
Yeah, PvP says, Perry Mason was a good show, but a bit repetitive at times.
Yeah, but I like Perry Mason. I've got all seasons on my server.
Yeah. And PvP says, LOL, sorry, Gorilla. Couldn't resist joking with you. And PvP says, mice. So poisoning mice is good, wholesome comedy?
Well, it's okay. You got to remember, they weren't, these days, back then, yes, we killed pests. Mice, spiders, cockroaches, we killed them. Only now, in modern TV and TV shows, I've actually seen videos on YouTube and on TV shows where they say, oh, look, Mommy, there's a spider in the house. Oh, and Mommy is very careful. She takes the spider, she scoops it up, takes it outside, and releases it in the yard. And I'd never seen crap like that when I was a kid. Nobody was that stupid. You kill pests so they don't breed and come back. It's as simple as that. You don't grab a pest and go release it outside because it's just going to have more pests.
Well, spiders do eat flies and mosquitoes and stuff. So
yeah, but you don't need them in your house. They're not going to do all that. That's what the outside is for.
Yeah.
But there's people that make mouse traps. I've seen videos on YouTube where they see now this mouse trap is designed where it won't kill any mice. Well, and I'm like, okay, what are you going to do with a big bucket of live mice? You going to go set them outside your house? How about dump them over the neighbor's yard, huh? Oh, well.
Yeah. And PvP's the shocking content for Family Hour. And yep. Scurvy says, hello, fellas. Hello, Scurvy.
Hey, Lemon Pie. Good to see you. Glad you could join us. I hope you're feeling well.
And PvP says, killed with a spear gun. Is this the dark episode of Gilligan?
Not really. I don't know. We haven't gotten that far yet.
Yeah, PvP laughed. And Herc says, hey, Scurvy, great show tonight. And PvP says, hi, Scurvy.
I'm so glad you guys made it tonight. It's good to see you all. But I'm not in the hospital. I'm glad that I'm back to streaming again. Of course, they both give each other suspicious looks. Gilligan is bungling that disarming gun on his face. He's thinking Gilligan just acts innocently stupid. Behind his laughing blue eyes is there a loaded revolver, ready to kill me in my sleep. Is Gilligan really Gilligan? It's ridiculous. Gilligan couldn't be that smart. On the other hand, if we thought I suspected him, we might decide, I'm getting out of here. Like I said, they're thinking to themselves. They're not actually saying this. And Gilligan's thinking, if I'm going to be killed in my sleep, I want to be awake. So we cut the next day, and it looks like Skipper is there sleeping next to a club. And he wakes up and realizes how ridiculous it is. And Gilligan's over there sleeping, and he wakes up Gilligan, and Gilligan almost attacks him. Gilligan has an even bigger club. It looks like something right out of the Flintstones. And here's where you see, please don't kill me. And then they both apologize to each other for being suspicious about each other. And they realize they're not the killers. Oh my God, my dog, I'm going to wring his neck. I'm sure we start working on the case again. Yes, like they're going to solve a case. It seems to be the obvious side fixes to the butler, says Gilligan once again. There's no butler on this island. How could there be? We don't have any upstairs. He says, well, there's an upstairs butler. And he says, we don't have any upstairs. And we're about the maid. Well, I just have to cross her out. Do you have any ideas who killed Randolph Blake? It's really hard to tell, but say maybe that newspaper clipping will give us a clue. I'm going to move this up a little bit so I can see a little better. There we go. Maybe somebody else is wearing your pants. So he realized that he doesn't have that letter in his pants because the letter slipped out of his pocket when he was in the Howl Hut. And he says, what if the murderer picks up the clipping? He learns that we're on his trail, and you know what can happen? You know what? We could get killed. And here we are back to the Howl Hut. Well, but you know I take my stroll at precisely 9 o'clock. She said, yes, but I can't find a parasol. Which means umbrella. Yes, I know. Those girls have been lax about taking care of our huts. So apparently they use Marianne and Ginger to clean their huts. Remind me to cut their salary, he says. She says, but darling, you don't pay them anything. Hold on, guys. Bear with me for a moment.
Well, while he's doing that, Hal sleeps with the teddy bear. I forgot about that. I like that Citizen Kane's rosebuds.
Yes. And what's interesting is the actor Jim Backus, long after this show went off the air, he kept that teddy. And he made appearances in public with that teddy. So I liked that he actually embraced it and used it. So I thought that was really cool. I'll be showing a clip of an interview with him. It was filmed years later, and he had that same teddy with him.
Yeah. And Herc says, this reminds me of every day at my office. LOL. What, the spear gun?
But I think it means but they don't pay you anything.
Oh, and this is LDG's backstage. Make sure to check it out if you ever need IT help or need a place to hang out. It's always fun. And Herc says, I don't mind the sound of dogs, children, phones, life during a stream. It makes it just like a conversation I would have with friends in my living room.
I know. I have a roommate. I'm upstairs, and there's a roommate, there's a short hall, and there's a guy on the other side, and every time he goes in and out his door, my dog goes crazy. And my dog doesn't need to do that. I'm trying to be quiet when I do these streams. By the way, all day today, the dog never barked at all day today, but now he does it. Sorry, go ahead, Gorilla.
Yeah, then Scurvy says, yep, I like hearing the dogs. And PvP says, oh, I have no problems killing mice. Just surprised they mentioned in our family hour back then. For example, the Robinsons weren't ever allowed to kiss in family hour.
But now remember, they said mice poison, but they're not going to show a mice dying on air on the screen. So that's about the worst that's about the harshest they're gonna get, is say poison for mice. Notice they didn't say rats, but they're not going to show a mouse dying on screen either, or them actually laying the poison in the hut. So now we have where Mrs. House says, "Darling, yes,
we got one more there.
Go for it.
Everybody trying to kill each other. Ha! Good thing I am the boss. Everyone is out to get me."
We'll start paying them more.
That's the last one.
Okay, and this is where he says, "Remind me to cut their pay." And she says, "But darling, you don't pay them anything." And he says, well, remind me to cut their Christmas bonus or something like that. I couldn't get it through the slides. Look at this. Polo mallet upside down. Swagger stick not tilted toward Oxford. Newspapers all over the place. And this is where he noticed the paper that fell out of Skipper's pocket. And he starts to read it. Survivors of the minnow sought in the Blake murder case. That's the first newspaper delivered since we arrived here, says Mrs. Howell. And he says, it must have fallen out of the Skipper's pocket last night. And here's where we get his glasses again. The actor, Jim Backus, pulls out his actual glasses. Officials trace the killer to the minnow. They believe one of the 7 aboard is responsible. I haven't invited them in over a week, so all she's thinking about are the Blakes. And he says,
no, she's
thinking there's a murder here on this island.
No, she's like the Skipper, because she checked, goes, yes, I haven't invited the Skipper here in over a week, because she remembers him being in the hut, but she doesn't remember him telling him it's a wild animal.
Gotcha. Thank you. And here's where he's trying to get her attention. There's a murderer here on the island. And of course, they say we better go tell the professor. And of course, as they do, as soon as they run into the professor's hut, he's testing out the guillotine. Ah, Mr. and Mrs. Howell, you're just in time to see my marvelous new invention. For chopping? Exactly. Watch. And he shows them how it can chop it. And it cuts the coconut in half. Oh, isn't that magnificent, he says. And he turns around. Notice how neatly he turns around and they're gone, of course. Now we have the girls inside the Howell hut cleaning. And they say, I don't see why we have to make up the Howell's hut every day. Right, that's what I would be saying. Well, we don't have to, but I like to be helpful and thoughtful.
And Ginger, I think Ginger wanted the factories.
Possible, right? After all, when we get off the island, so I think they're thinking that maybe when they get off the island that Howells will return the favor, but knowing rich people, that's probably very unlikely. But any of us who have seen Rescue from Gilligan's Island, it is believable because they actually do show them after they get off the island, and the Howells do care for them just as much. So they are not forgotten. And then they find the same letter that Mr. Howell left behind, murderer. They think one of us is a murderer. And now they say the professor, he'll protect us. Of course, he's still working on that guillotine as they come in. Professor, we've got to talk to you. Girls, I've been waiting for you. And he shows that. That's a great shot. I should have used that as a thumbnail. With them on the other side of the blade. Why, it's just a guillotine and he slams down the guillotine and it cuts into the coconut. And they're surprised and shocked. And he said, well, I should be thanked for making the task easier. You girls have been complaining about splitting coconuts, and murder don't come any closer. So that's why everyone's been acting so strangely, he says. How are we supposed to act with the murderer loose? Especially if he has a head chopper. No one will ever use that for anything but coconuts, said the professor. What about that story? What if he's on the island? Well, certainly there's cause for concern. They show him the letter, so now he's starting to figure out what's going on. It's difficult to think of all of us as a killer, he says. What are we supposed to do? Well, Marianne, we mustn't lose faith. Simple matter of trusting each other. Agreed? And they say agreed. Okay, I agree too. And then everybody else starts popping out, I agree, and they're the Hells, I agree. Everybody's been listening, of course.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. They just popped out of the woodwork.
Right, they've been hiding in his hut the whole time. He's been working on that guillotine and didn't even realize it. Ladies and gentlemen, this has got to stop. Exactly. What are we going to do? We can't go on living like this. Only one thing to do is put our cards on the table. Yeah, let's play Old Maid. That's fun, Gilligan.
Yeah, I've never played Old Maid.
God, when I was a kid, I did go Old Maid and go fish.
Ours Ours was dummy rummy and crap on your neighbor.
No, Old Maid was an actual card set. It wasn't the same cards like you use to play regular cards. Old Maid was a set of cards and it actually had an old lady on it.
Okay.
Right. And the professor says, and I, for one, am willing to start. I not only knew Randolph Blake, so now he has a confession. I not only knew Randolph Blake, but I was very angry with him. The night we left Honolulu, I had written a paper on marine biology. I faced him with the fact, and he said he stole it from him. I faced him with the fact and I argued with him, and I left him. Yes, very much alive. And he sits down. Randolph Blake happened to be one of my employees, says the Mr. Howell. He managed a store that was part of the Howell chain. The only one that was losing money. Yeah, and you know how Howell feels about money. He says he was stealing from the register. He says he did it. Gilligan saying he did it. No, I didn't harm him.
Yeah.
Howell.
Yeah, I was laughing so hard there, even though it did get a little bit repetitive there. But
right,
Gilligan's like, he did it.
Right, every time somebody started talking, Gilligan was like, he did it. And Mr. Howell says, we had a heated argument. Yes, indeed. But his murder? Absolutely no. And then now Ginger stands up. I might as well admit something too. I was with Randolph Blake the night before we sailed. And of course, she did it, Gilligan again. Gilligan, would you be quiet? I had a date with Randolph the night before we sailed. And he told me that he was going to marry somebody else. I got furious and I slapped his face. That was all that happened. She goes to sit down and then Mary Ann stands up. I knew Mr. Blake too. I recognized him in the store. He and my father were partners. And he forced my father into bankruptcy. She did it, of course. Gilligan's still doing it. And she says, I lost my temper. And then, all right, and she says she left. All she did was leave. All right, we have 4 suspects. And Mrs. Howell speaks of 5. I didn't really like him very much either. She did it. All right, then 5. All 5 with both opportunity and motive.
Yeah. Well, Mrs. Howell just didn't want to get left out.
Of course. And what is the last part of Perry Mason? They all look innocent until what? And he says, until the commercial. Well, will you stop showing what a knucklehead you are? Now hold it, Skipper. He may have something there. When reenacting the crime, so now they're talking, excuse me, I need to get something to drink. But they're talking about reenacting the crime so they can figure out what happened. All right, let's range for it as soon as possible. So now they reenact the crime and they disguise the hut to look like Randolph Blake's boating equipment store. And Lord Gilligan says, can we make it into a candy store instead? You get in there. Of course, they have all the props. So they look like it has a cash register and everything. And look at that, the murder weapon. So the professor made a spear gun that they're going to use as an example for their reenactment. Whoever killed Blake. Now, Skipper accidentally pulls the trigger and shoots right into his own picture there. I'm sure I wouldn't want to be Mr. Blake. It reminds me, little buddy. Oh, no, you don't. Gilligan tries to run out and Skipper grabs him. Why me? Why always me? So there, now Skipper props up the spear gun against the wall. He says, now, Gilligan, little buddy, you have nothing to worry about. I want to mention something real quick, a production note. You see that mirror behind him? See how foggy and dirty it is? You figure it'd be clean. But the reason why it's foggy and clear, or foggy and all mucky, is so you don't see the cameras and the crew in the background and reflection from the camera lights, stage lights. But how come I'm shaking? So he wants Gilligan to act as Randall Blake as the different suspects come in and reenact the crime. Here they come. You ready? So Skipper hides under the counter. And here comes Mr. Howell with Mrs. Howell. Good evening, Mr. Randolph Blake. I understand that you've been dipping into the till. Of course, Gilligan just acting like himself, not like Blake. I think you're a horrible man, but honest, real honest. You deserve a sound thrashing, Mr. Blake. And now they play the dramatic music. And Mr. Howell spins around and starts walking towards the spear gun. Now, Skipper, now. And Skipper says, what's he doing? He's reaching for the spear gun. And of course, no, they walk over to the phone and he says, you have a dime, Lovey? Don't be ridiculous. Then I shall use the phone in one of our cars. And it's funny, he does check the change dispenser to see if there's any change in there. And they walk out. That clears the Howells. Now it's the professor's turn. He comes in. Randolph, I want to see you. And Gilligan says, sorry, the store's closed. I worked 7 days on that scientific paper you stole.
7 years.
What you're so nervous about a piece of paper for, says Gilligan. I've got a whole pad of papers. I didn't see to it that you never steal anything. I'm going to do what I should have done years ago. And he turns around, the same dramatic music, and he starts walking towards the spear gun. Then he spins around and stops. Your subscription to the Scientific Quarterly. He says, I'm canceling your subscription to the Scientific Quarterly. And he walks out the door. And they say, well, that clears the professor. And the skipper tries to get up, but he hits his head on the counter. And now Ginger comes in. I'm here, Randolph. Mr. Blake left an hour ago, says Gilligan. Come here, funny look in your eyes. And tell me that you're getting married next week. Kiss me, Randolph, she says. Of course, Gilligan, please, you're wrinkling my lab coat. What of it? You're Randolph. Well, in that case, there's only one thing I can do, she says. Oh, no, there's lots of things. Just think hard, he says. No, you know what they say about a woman scorned. And she turns around in dramatic music, walking towards the spear gun.
Yeah.
And she looks at herself in the mirror and preps her hair.
Yeah. I noticed that a lot. They'll show the female just walking away there. I noticed that they did that for every single person.
Yes. You will pay for this. I shall never date you again. That's her payment. That's how she make him suffer.
And she never slapped him like she said she did when she told him how she knew him. She didn't slap Gilligan.
No, I think that would have been inappropriate, probably. Wait a minute, Gilligan's professor. Yeah, it was Skipper.
Well, that's the way they told the story is she slapped him. So if they're reenacting, she should have slapped him.
She could have walked over there, but I'm sure the audience at the time watching this would have been like, what? Now Marianne comes in. Because of you, my father ended up in the poorhouse. And of course, Gilligan, can we send him something like chicken soup? You don't deserve to live. And he bends down. Skipper, wait till she grabs the gun. It might be too late. Get up there, he says. She said, nothing you can say will make me change my mind. And now we have the dramatic music. And of course, she starts heading towards the spear gun. And she turns around. You're terrible. I hate you. And she just leaves. That's the last one. And I'm still alive, says Gilligan. Certainly, we've got to find out who killed Randolph Blake. I'll send them back to you. So they're saying, let's try it over again. So they had one shot, and that's one enough. Gilligan's done with this. Skipper slams the door. And when he does, the spear gun falls over and shoots right there and barely misses Gilligan. And Skipper hears it and runs back in. Are you all right, little buddy? Who did it? Who did it? And Gilligan, the slamming of the door triggered the gun. You solved the crime. It was an accident. I'm glad it wasn't one of our friends. Well, you just think another inch and wow. Oh, yeah, just think another inch and, says Gilligan.
Sure did get lucky.
Yep. And meanwhile, the next day, they're listening to the radio, and they can hear the voice saying, "This is Shuttlecotty from WCPO." Shuttlecotty, that's funny.
Who's that? Who's that?
It's a fake name, obviously, but I think it's just a funny name. It's a silly name, Shuttlecotty.
Oh, okay.
Did you hear that, Skipper? Yes, Gilligan, I heard him. So the radio is talking about the murder case. After conducting extensive experiments with the spear gun, which was the cause of death, the authorities are convinced that Randolph Blake met his unfortunate fate by sheer accident. And Gilligan says, "Did you hear that, Skipper?" Man on the radio, numerous tests with the spear gun indicated that the firing mechanism could be triggered such as the slamming of a door. So they actually investigated the murder case, and they came up with the same result as the Castaways, where somebody slammed the door and the spear gun went off and killed Randolph Blake.
Yeah.
That's just what we did. That's just what we did. Yes, go ahead. Thank you.
Yeah, we'll finish with the scene here.
And Gilligan said, "That's just what we did. That's just what we did." And that's how it happened, believe it or not. I believe it. I believe it. Go ahead.
Well, it's kind of funny there though that they solved it literally right after they did.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which I kind of like that. I liked it.
Yeah. And Scurvy here says, "Hi, Herc, PvP Gorilla Pop." PvP says, "Wasn't Mr. House named Jeeves in a previous life?"
I hadn't heard of that. Jeeves?
Yeah, I haven't heard of that.
Go back to that one. Let me look at it. Maybe I want to look at the spelling. Let me dig it is.
Jeeves.
No, I hadn't heard of that.
No.
Thank you.
Daniel says, "That looks like a nice night for a meeting, yeah? Why did the professor build a guillotine? To chop coconuts to make it easier on everybody. Someone should get the immunity idol."
Right, the professor did say that. He said because it'll make it easier to cut open coconuts. So it does make sense because they are a pain in the neck when you're trying to open them.
Yeah, and Eric said someone should get the immunity idol.
I don't know what that means.
Yeah, me either. PvP says, "Totally forgot this one. It's entertaining though." Dude. And says, "Oh, a coconut chopper. Too bad they had no coconuts in revolutionary France. Maybe they practice on coconuts, but I guarantee you they're gonna still use it."
Yeah.
It goes, "I played dominoes with the granddad in the 60s. He won 90% of the time, but I still love spending time with him."
Oh, I love dominoes.
Yeah. Then PvP says, "Okay, the Gilligan, she did it, is getting way overdone." I don't know. Herc says, "I think you heard that wrong, PCC. She said, 'Kiss me, Herc.' 130. Well, at least that was what I heard." Phantom Boomer says, "Herc 130. Hey, is that your wife looking over your shoulder?" Herc says, "Yep, busted." Pronounced Jeeves, said Herc.
Wait a second. Wait a minute. I think I know what he means. Before Google hit really big as the dominating search engine on the internet, there used to be different competing search engines like Yahoo.com, the Alta Vista, but there was one called Ask Jeeves.
Oh,
like
yeah,
a butler.
I remember that one.
Yeah, because at the time I was a teacher at the elementary school, and I was having our kids use the Jeeves search site because it was safe for kids. So I think that's what he's referring to.
Ours wasn't. That was the easiest one to turn off the safe search on.
Well, yeah, but we had it turned on for the students.
No, but that's the easiest one for us kids to turn off.
I know, but Right, but we supervised our kids where they didn't do that.
Well, when you got
This is when the internet was brand new and we had introduced it into the schools, and we were being very careful. We were under the scrutiny of the public. So
you guys probably had
nothing went wrong.
Yeah, you guys probably had a lot less computers than what we had.
Well, we had a lot of computers because I wrote a grant for $1.2 million, and I was able to get a nice big fancy lab with 40 machines, and then I put 6 computers in every classroom. We were the first school in the district to do that, and internet.
We had like 30 of them in our library there.
I put 6 in our library.
Yeah, and Herc said Immunity Idol is from that TV show Survivor. I hated that show. Never even bothered watching it. And Herc says, yes, PCC. Yes, Jeeves. And Pickles says, I remember Jeeves. And welcome, Sean Carter. He says, hey, everybody.
Hey, Sean, good to see you, buddy. Glad you could be here.
He says, Herc, greetings. Job, hail. Boomer, hola. All righty, we're all caught up.
All right, and it was a great turnout tonight. So good to see you all. And how did I get getting way over here? All right, we got to somehow I hit the wrong button. There we go. Now we're caught up. It's just what we did, and that's how it happened, believe it or not. I believe it, I believe it. Isn't that amazing? We worked it out just like the police. And of course, Skipper says, yes, all right, let's forget about it and go to sleep. Just forget about Blake and that spear gun. Good night. Well, Gilligan, you did it again. What? You left the door open. So Gilligan gets out of bed to go close the door. And when he does it, slam, and the spear gun shoots.
Yeah. Gilligan has some good aim.
Yes, he does. And it knocks the Skipper. And I love Alan Hale does his own stunts. So you don't have to worry about some kind of stunt man or a double in there. That's actually him. I love it.
Yeah. Now, I got a question, though. If they knew that thing was that sensitive there, why the hell did they reload it?
Well, what they did was, I think what happened was they used their hut to reenact the murders, and they forgot to get rid of it.
Yeah, no, but why did they put it back? Put the spear back in there when they picked up the gun there? Why didn't they leave the spear next to the gun?
Sounds like something Gilligan would do. Because if the spear gun works, they can use it later on for fishing. And we get our closing credits. And our sad castaways. Oh, I wish we could play the ending music. Sung by the Wellingtons. Of course, we all know who they are. They appeared in the episode Don't Bug the Mosquitoes. On Gilligan, of course, CBS Studio filmed. Now get that straight, everybody. Filmed at CBS Studio Center, Studio City, California. So yes, not only was the lagoon downtown, but the lagoon was not the same one that people see at Universal Studios. So it was definitely a different one. I want to get those two things out of the way. And by the way, as a reminder, I did put a poll in the chat. Everybody, if you get a chance, please feel free to vote on these episodes, which one you enjoyed the most. Now, and like I said before, you can either give us your opinion on the episode or on our coverage of how we covered the episode. That's totally up to you.
Yeah, we made great time tonight.
Yes, we did. And also, I didn't read from the book, which that's a good thing, but a bad thing. I need to get back to reading from the book, like I do for Star Trek and like I do for Lost in Space. So I promise everybody next week I will read from the book. I don't think I have any doctor's appointments next. Actually, I do have an appointment next Wednesday, but I'll read it the night before. I'll be prepared, I promise. Next week I will read from the book. How are we doing on the chats? Are we caught up?
Well, we got a couple of them here. Herc says, hey, Sean, this has been a very funny stream tonight. And,
I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Yeah. Sean says, I just got off work, got called in. Oh, that sucks. I'm glad those days are over for me. Boomer says, hola, Sean. And I don't know if I should promote PvP's channel here since he says he wants to eat me there. So why should I promote his channel that has all these playlists of rock and roll songs and all that, and his playlist that's all songs that are 30 minutes or less? And PvP says, heading out, I vote for episode 2. Okay.
Very cool. Thank you, PvP.
Yeah. And PvP says, never watched Survivor. It looks like crap. Sean said, I could have said no, but money is money. Gotta look at the big picture. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, here is Phantom Boomer's channel for watch parties. And PvP says, anyway, night.
Good night, PvP.
All right.
Okay. Before I cover the poll in the chat, Gorilla, give me your review on which episode did you enjoy the most, and tell us about your channel.
I mean, the first one there is just too much ritzy ditzy, fake love there. You know, the ending did not make sense. You know, without the context of the backstory there, but it's just kind of like overdone. And some of the jokes went over my head because I'm not a 60s. I wasn't around in the 60s to know who this gal was. But the second one was a good mystery there. It was fun. Everybody being suspicious of each other, even if the jokes got a little bit repetitive there. But it's still good, wholesome fun there. And I tend to like the darker episodes.
I understand that.
Yeah.
Tell us about your channel.
Well, we just did our 5th and 6th episode of Justified tonight. There, the episodes are just getting better, so you can come join us on Wednesdays for Justified. Then Babylon 5 on Saturdays and Sundays. On Sunday we're watching Bohemian Rhapsody, and then on Fridays there's Walton's reviews. Then we'll have some shorts coming up. Like I just did a short tonight of my supper there. I had some breaded shrimp I had in the freezer from a while back, so I just made some of that. And I found out 10 years ago, if you dip it in au jus, it tastes wonderful. So I'm planning on doing a bunch of more shorts here coming up. I just gotta find the time to do it.
Yeah, I know how it is when you're busy. It's not easy.
Yeah.
All right. Very cool. Thank you. And let me make this quick here. I feel similar to what you said, Gorilla. The first episode got repetitive, and like I mentioned, discussing the first episode, it was basically written and filmed around Zsa Zsa Gabor because that's how she always acted, and that's what she pretty much was known for, was a socialite, gold digger that went from one husband to another. So that's why that was the plot of the episode, because it was Zsa Zsa Gabor. I mean, it was okay. I'm still a fan of Gilligan's Island, but I prefer the second episode better. And especially because, like you said, it's a darker episode, but I'm a big fan of those old murder mysteries like Agatha Christie and Sherlock Holmes. And I'm also a fan of Perry Mason, and I like to read about Nero Wolfe. So that's why I could see where all those genres of mysteries were all kind of crammed together in this one episode, which I thought was kind of cool. And the suspense, I think one thing that stood out more than anything watching this, because I hadn't seen it since I was a kid, but when they were the pace with the suspense music, and they were walking across the floor, and you're wondering if they're going to get the spear gun, that's the part that really stuck in my mind the most out of all these years, and I really enjoyed it. Next Monday, please join us if you're able to. And I did mention I'm going to try to have an open mic, rumblings from the lab stream sometime in the next couple days, I hope, if I'm feeling well. Monday, though, we are definitely going to resume with Lost in Space. I feel bad we missed last week because I was in the hospital. But we're going to resume with Lost in Space on Monday with the episode The Keeper. at 6 p.m. Pacific time on this channel. And then Tuesday, you will find me on Anti-Derivative Jill's channel, where she's going to cover TOS, the original Star Trek series. That's usually around noon Central Time. And then I'm going to be putting a poll up probably tonight or tomorrow night on which horror sci-fi movie that we're going to cover for next Tuesday night. I'll put up 4 titles and I'll let you guys vote like we usually do. I'm sure we'll come up with something very exciting and interesting. We always do, and it's not been a disappointment yet. So look forward to that poll, everybody. I will have that in my community tab. And then next Wednesday, we'll be back with 2 more episodes of Gilligan's Island. If everything goes well, if I'm still around, which I intend to be. And Derivative Jill, hello. So good to see you, Jill. And I apologize, Jill. Yeah, Jill's just coming in, and we're just getting ready to close up shop here. I was just thanking everybody, Jill, and we just gave our reviews, and we shared our channels, and I just plugged your channel, Jill. I was just telling everybody how I'm going to be on your TOS stream, hopefully, next Tuesday at noon Central Time. I'm not sure which episode. I need to look it up because I missed the last stream. I was in surgery. But I will be there for the TOS episode for next week. And I want to cover... Thank you. That is good news. Yes, it is, Jill. I'm feeling much better. I'm so glad to be home. Okay, so I'm going to cover... I'm going to go ahead and end the poll. I hope everybody had a chance to vote. And then I'm going to share the results of our voting. Let's see how that turned out. Oops, let me make this smaller first. Oh, thank you, Jill. Next week is the Gamesters of Triskelion with Shauna. Oh, yes, I can't wait for that one. By the way, according to her, I want to mention this, and I'll mention it during that stream, is when I met Angelique Pettyjohn, who plays Shauna in the episode of the Gamesters of Triskelion, she's the lady with the green hair. When I met her, according to her, and I'm going to try to see if I can find more research on this, but she said, according to her, that while they were filming that episode is when the cast was told that Star Trek was canceled. And this was before the letter writing campaign, by the way, with Save Season 3. But according to Angelique Pettyjohn, this was the episode they were shooting when the NBC people came in, or Gene Roddenberry, whatever, came in and told everybody the show was canceled. But I'll look into that more. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to share the results of the poll, if I don't mess it up first. And there we go. It looks like we had a total of 9 votes. Ooh, look at that. Look at that, gorilla. Which episode did you enjoy the most? It looks like most of them enjoyed the Erika Tiffany-Smith to the Rescue episode, with 66% of the votes. And Not Guilty got 33% of the votes. So that's interesting, gorilla. You and I voted completely different than what everybody in the chat did. So how do you like that? You never know, huh? Thank you for voting, everybody. I appreciate that. That's why I love your inputs. We love the chat. Without you guys, we would not be here. And I want to thank everybody. Oh, man, interesting, says Jill. Yes, Jill, and I want to look into that and confirm it to see if it's true. Yeah, thank you, everybody in the chat, for being here and spending time with us. And it looks like we're right at about the 2-hour mark, because I started 15 minutes late, and it's about 2 hours. So I hope that's, I don't know if it's a good thing. If you were expecting this to be longer, I'm sorry if you're disappointed. But sometimes I try to keep these shorter because I know Gorilla has to work tomorrow. And the poor guy is 2 hours ahead of me. And I know he was up late last night on my sci-fi horror stream. So I'm hoping maybe he can get to bed a little earlier tonight. And most of all, thank you, Gorilla, for being here and helping me out with the stream tonight and helping me out with the chats.
Yeah, no problem.
And like I tell everybody, too, have a great night, everybody. Get a good night's sleep, rest, and drive safe tomorrow.